Welcome back, boys and girls. And before we talk about the hunting clothes and how to protect ourselves from tick and Lyme disease, I want to talk about how to shoot more accurately and how to make a rifle more accurately with a minimum investment. First of all, it shouldn't be testosterone-driven sports where everybody's trying to show off that they could shoot the biggest and the baddest gun out there. Woo! I can feel it in my face. Okay, I'm guilty of that as well. Well, the shooting really should be fun, comfortable, and have a minimum anticipation before you pull the trigger. If you're merely hunting for medium-sized game like deer or black bear, and the shooting distance is within 300 yards like here in Virginia, you might want to start with a short action like .308. This would be a great cartridge like I did. And instead of starting with a big Magnum class, because this costs less money ammunition-wise, and the recoil is less, so it's a lot easier to shoot. Now, if you're shooting beyond 500 yards and shooting on larger games, you really should consider Magnum class, but you might also consider muzzle brake. Now, this could reduce up to 40% even more of a recoil, so shooting at 300 mag feels like shooting .308. Real soft shooting. You have to protect your hearing with a really good set of earplugs. I like to use a small earplugs that goes in really tight into my ear so that it's really tight and it really blocks off the sound really well. When I practice shooting, even with .308, I like to use extra set of recoil pad. This is by Limb Saver. It's really nice and soft and it's really comfortable shooting. Depending on your hunting environment, you might want to practice shooting from your bench rest or practice with bipod.
Ceasefire, 2 minutes. 2 minutes to ceasefire, change time.
Oh, that's actually better. This is at 100. This is a Thompson Center 2-shot group on a bench rest. Oh yeah. This is at 100 yards. And that's with Thompson Center on prone position. You really should practice shooting with your hunting ammunition because that's what's gonna count. So you have to try different kind of ammunitions, different weight, and see which one really shoots best for your particular rifle. And if none of them works well, try the barrel stabilizer. This stuff really works. So you shot without the stabilizer? I would say I still have close to an inch growth. Okay, here's the third shot with the stabilizer on at 100 yards. Here we go. Oh yeah, that's really tight. Now that's Thompson Center thin barrel without the stabilizer. Now that's with the stabilizer. So let's go home and measure it up and see how they did. We have to consider that I am shooting the cheapest ammunition out there. The Thompson Center without the stabilizer, if you measure it, so that's about 1 notch less than 1 inch. With the stabilizer, if we look at it, there's just right about ½ inch growth. So with a stabilizer, it reduced the measurement down by half, which is great. I also see a lot of beginners hold their rifles way too tight against their shoulder. Now, when you have all that strength going on and holding it really tight, you're gonna have your rifle shaking. Now, you don't want that. You wanna have it nicely snug, but very comfortable. So when your crosshairs stop shaking, and that's when you pull the trigger. I also see many shooters who bring only one rifle to the range and they keep shooting it and shooting it and shooting it. And their group just gets wider and wider and wider. Now, you don't want to do that. You want to bring at least 3 or 4 rifles with you and take turns. That way, you're shooting it every 7 to 8 minutes and you're shooting it with a core bore. And that way, you could keep your group nice and tight. And for us hunters, first shot is what counts. Now, if you only have 1 rifle, then you really should get more rifles. If not, just take it easy and shoot every 7 to 8 minutes. Oh yeah, that's probably about ½ inch growth. Oh wow. This gave me like a probably quarter-inch groove. This is at 100 yards. And as I mentioned, I am really stoked about all my groupings being a very first shot in a cold ball. So that's with a Christensen 3-shot group. So that's really tight. I think you shoot better as I shoot more. But this is savage. And that's the first 2-shot, and I knew I wasn't ready for that one. But again, what do you do? And this is one I was really stoked about. This is Browning 243. First 2-shot went to this 2 same hole. And that's my 3rd shot. So I tell you, they're all pretty tight. If you love your rifle but not 100% happy with your trigger, you don't have to replace the whole trigger. Just replace the trigger spring, like in this Browning AB3. It cost me $15 and 5 minutes of my time, and anybody can do it, trust me. Make sure it's empty, and the trigger becomes really sweet. Okay, it's got a very small drag, but breaks pretty clean. But it feels, well, this is like 3.5 pounds, but it feels more like 4.5, maybe close to 5 pounds. Oh wow, that really feels. That feels like about 2.5 pounds, really. Now, if you're preparing for long-range hunting, you really should get a decent set of a rangefinder and practice a different distance and know exactly where your crosshair has to be. Next, we're gonna talk about whether the muzzle brake helps the hunters and why. And lastly, like always, thank God for what you have, enjoy your life with what you got, but mostly remember, we don't have to be a macho to shoot well. See ya.